For many, it feels like it's been forever, and today, confirmation that the news we all dreaded. Sydney's lockdown will stretch for at least another month. Gladys Berejiklian says she's now looking to spring for hope. Until then, the Premier is pleading with everyone to get a jab. Today was another record breaker, 177 new cases. Just a quarter were known to be isolating the whole time they were infectious. An 11th person has also died. We have a team of reporters with the day's big developments. Let's go straight to state political reporter Ashley Raper. Ashley, this lockdown's grip on Sydney just got tighter.
The government didn't simply extend the lockdown, Jeremy. It also put more restrictions on people's movements, and for some in Sydney's southwest and west, the lockdown became harsher. A city under strain, held captive by the Delta variant.
It was fairly obvious the way the numbers were going in the last few days that it would have not been possible for us to come out of lockdown.
The number of cases is up again, and super spreader events have still been happening.
That funeral that was held at Pendle Hill where 50 people attended, 45 people now have the virus out of that 50. 45.
The lockdown has been lengthened until the 28th of August.
We know lockdowns work and we just have to hold our course.
And it's a direction with even tougher rules. People can now only shop within their local government area or within 10 kilometres of their home. And there are now more local government area hotspots. Along with the 5 previously identified, Parramatta, Campbelltown and Georges River have also been added. Everybody who lives there can only leave if their job is on the authorised list.
These steps and actions are required to protect you and your loved ones.
Homeschooling will continue, but in 2 weeks, Year 12 students will go back to class and those in southwest and western Sydney will be vaccinated. Rapid antigen testing will be rolled out at schools and certain workplaces. All authorised workers will now have to undergo surveillance testing in Canterbury Bankstown. And in Fairfield and Cumberland, only health and aged care workers need to get regular tests. People have until Saturday to get their first swab. On that day too, construction will resume as promised, but not in COVID hotspots. More financial assistance came with today's announcement, and that in part is designed to help make the decision easier for workers to stay home. Compliance remains an issue and a cause of frustration for the Premier.
You might think you're doing your grandmother or your aunt a favour by dropping in and giving them food or going in to say hello, but that could be their death sentence. Do not do it.
There is a change for people living alone. A singles bubble is now allowed, so people can have one designated visitor throughout the lockdown. Ashley Raper, ABC News, Sydney.
So, Ashley, we have another month of this, but the Premier's hopeful the lockdown will eventually work.
Jeremy, the outlook is grim, but the Premier is still optimistic that this situation can turn around. And while Gladys Berejiklian acknowledged that it's been a struggle to contain the spread of this virus over the past 4.5 weeks, she insists the next 4 can be different. Why? Her reason is that the lockdown is more targeted now in areas where there are high infections. And those tough rules that now will come into effect will affect 2 million people in Sydney's southwest and west over the next month. And you put that with more people getting vaccinated, and the Premier says things can change. But it also relies on people doing the right thing. So there are still a few variables when the goal remains the same. That is to get to 0 or close to 0 community transmission. Can we do that in 4 weeks, Jeremy? We don't know. But the Premier today spoke about spring being a time of hope, and she's hoping that in spring it will see Greater Sydney come out of this lockdown.
Ashley Raper reporting. For so many individuals and businesses, the financial pain of this health crisis has been crippling. The increased disaster payments from both the state and federal governments will reach over $1 billion a week.
It's been more than a month since Sydney went from this to this. Businesses deserted, livelihoods ruined, lives on hold. For Anissa, budgeting during lockdowns become a depressing daily task.
After I pay my rent, I've got nothing left. You know, it's a daily struggle to meet the costs of living in Sydney.
She lost the tutoring work that usually tops up her job seeker payments and wasn't eligible for the Commonwealth's COVID disaster supplements until now.
The Commonwealth Government has your back, just as we've had the back of Australians all through this crisis.
People who've lost more than 20 hours work will receive $750 a week, up from $600. Those who've lost at least 8 hours work a week will now get $450. And the scheme is being extended to people already on government income support. They'll receive $200 a week if they've lost at least 8 hours work. The changes came after weeks of intense lobbying from the state government.
I accept that I've probably been a pain in the arse for the Prime Minister, but I'm here to fight for workers and for businesses right across the state, and I'll continue to do that.
Whoever wants to take the credit for this payment, knock yourself out.
While the $200 will be a lot in assisting me from not having to rely on family and friends, it isn't quite enough to cover off the debts I've accrued in the last month of lockdown.
Businesses too are getting a boost through an expanded JobSaver program. The state and federal government fund the scheme 50-50 and bosses must keep all staff on their books. Originally, businesses with an annual turnover of up to $50 million were eligible. Now it's up to $250 million. The maximum weekly payment has gone up from $10,000 to $100,000.
This will hopefully keep people in jobs, as it is wages support, and it will also help keep businesses afloat.
The cost of keeping the state afloat has now risen to more than $1 billion a week. Sarah Geraghty, ABC News, Sydney.
There are some strict rules for the return of construction, but the industry is already expressing concern the situation will be unworkable. Let's go to Kathleen Calderwood in Parramatta. Kathleen, why is the industry so worried?
Well, Jeremy, many of the city's tradespeople live in the west and southwestern suburbs. For example, in the Fairfield local government area, it's the most common occupation. So for work sites that are allowed to reopen, finding workers who are allowed to work will be a huge logistical challenge. And for those who can, the rules are complicated and some are worried they'll be hard to follow. Like most tradespeople, John Gattani has been desperate to get back on the tools. Because he lives in Strathfield, he's just outside of a COVID hotspot, so he can go back to work.
Yes, I can do some work, but some of my jobs and some of my bigger jobs are inside the lockdown LGAs or local government areas. Also, some of my staff are in those local government areas. Construction will only be allowed outside the 8 local government areas of concern, but thousands of tradespeople live there. They still have to stay home, meaning many construction sites won't be able to resume work. So places like Parramatta, usually a hive of construction, will remain quiet. Where work can go ahead, extra COVID-safe protocols will have to be in place,
including the spacing on sites, ways that individuals enter and exit sites, carpooling, as with the rest of the state. Construction work at homes can only restart if the residents are completely quarantined from the tradespeople, and only 2 tradies are allowed at homes if the work is inside and 5 outside. Certain preparation work can start from tomorrow, and work on all eligible construction sites can happen on Sundays and public holidays until Christmas to make up for lost time.
Construction is a very important part of the New South Wales economy, a very important part of the New South Wales workforce. And bringing back this construction activity today will add around $500 million to the New South Wales economy every week.
But the complicated new rules are proving difficult to decipher.
Sometimes it's feels like it's a bit of a risk when we go to a job or when I'm booking in a job. You know, is this one going to get me in trouble? Am I doing it the right way?
Put in place segregation, that there is no mix between trades and the household. We want to make that absolutely clear. There can be no contact.
There is one exemption. Those involved in the manufacturing and delivery of construction materials are now authorised workers. That means they can leave Sydney's hotspots to go to work. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Sydney.
There's some certainty coming for HSC students. They can go back to class in 2 weeks, but they'll need to do regular rapid antigen testing. And those in Sydney's COVID hotspots will be given the Pfizer vaccine.
Soccer's been a great release for Zach, but returning to the classroom will be even sweeter.
Pretty happy, I'm really keen to get back face to face.
Studying at home at such a crucial time has been difficult, but it has provided a refuge from the pandemic.
I'm a little nervous to go back in, honestly, because the numbers are still so high, but hopefully they'll drop within the next few weeks, and I'm sure the school will have a good COVID plan in place.
40,000 Pfizer shots will offer some protection. They'll be taken from the regional supply to go into the arms of students most at risk.
This is about supporting Year 12 students in those 8 LGAs, students that are in their final year.
That's cold comfort for areas that have geared up to jab en masse.
Obviously there's a supply issue, and I don't see why regional New South Wales should suffer because of this.
Students will also be tested using rapid antigen kits that deliver results within minutes, but with less accuracy than the standard swabs.
It's a much quicker turnaround, but the price you pay for that is accuracy.
That accuracy improves when the tests are taken daily. The Teachers' Union says it's dumbfounded.
How's that going to happen? Who's going to do it? Who will be responsible for it? And in the meantime, all those students and adults will be congregating in a single space.
Schools like this will go from almost completely empty to accepting more than 100 students. That presents a public health challenge, especially those that have students enrolled from all across Greater Sydney.
I think what we did in 2020 has really put us in good stead for this year. We had some really good systems, and we know that we can put those into place again.
Some much-needed assurance for Year 12s in the thick of a trying time. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Sydney.
You can expect to see more police on the streets. A very frustrated Premier says too many people are still doing the wrong thing. Our crime reporter Mark Reddy is with me now. Mark, Gladys Berejiklian didn't hold back with her concerns today.
Yeah, Jez, Gladys Berejiklian took aim at NAB after images posted on social media showed some of its employees not wearing masks and hosting a birthday party in one of the offices. Other images show them eating pizza while not socially distancing and even playing card games. NAB's executive, Rachel Slade, labelled the behaviour disappointing and said, but wouldn't say if any disciplinary action would follow. The Premier is furious and a police investigation is now underway.
I was so disturbed when I saw images today publicly made available of workplaces not even wearing masks indoors or not even complying to the health orders. This cannot happen.
Now, Mark, what are police saying about the possibility of another protest this weekend?
Well, Jeremy, as well as extra police being deployed, there are a number of covert operations underway. Intelligence officers are now scouring social media. 60 people were charged over last weekend's violent rally. There have been 15,000 calls to Crime Stoppers between then and now, and that is a record according to police. The Deputy Police Commissioner, Mal Lanyon, says he's also reached out personally to protest organisers.
Now is not the time to conduct unauthorised protests. Police are well prepared, well resourced, and we will not tolerate those types of actions.
Anyone who goes to that illegal demonstration, Jeremy, can expect a fine of $1,000.
Mark Reddy reporting.